A very happy birthday to my mother, to my mom. Happy birthday, Mom, who has been very supportive of me and even watches this program on a daily basis, I believe, which is a huge commitment. Artist Journal, November 7th, 2022, Berlin. My name is Adrian Pocobelli, and look at this wonderful birthday cake here that I have gotten dusted off here. Gabriel Tezos, the great food artist on Object, on Tezos. I'm a huge fan, and this one seemed to fit the bill. Flowers growing out of a cake, everything that Mom loves. And so, yeah, I believe it's inspired by invincible women. So, yeah, and that is my mom. So anyways, that's a great thing about doing this program. She's over in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. You know, at least it's a day of flying. And so anyways, it's great that we can connect this way with the sun half on my face here. Let's see what happens here today. Continuing on. So Runetoon has replied, and he left a really nice reply, actually. Oh no. Regarding our whole conversation yesterday that we went deep into. If you missed it, you can see it there. The Charity of Interpretation was the name of the episode. Oh no, I did not mean to wound you with my choice of words. I think you already know that my goal was only to create meaningful dialogue. And I did know that. And that this was in no way meant as an attack to you or your opinions. Yeah, and exactly. We all know we're all friends here. And Runetoon has been the source of some of our best episodes here. His provocative questioning. Again, are we discussing the Crito yesterday without Runetoon? And the answer is no. So, and I think that's a very beneficial part of our conversation here. A lot of our most intellectual episodes have been a result of Runetoon's and I say it in a friendly way, intellectual provocations, okay? In the most positive sense. Let's just finish up here. You pointed out it's not your opinion that you are against physical work shared as an NFT, but as skepticism. Thank you for your continued graciousness in this ongoing dialogue. I will try to improve the framing of my responses. Yeah, all good. Sometimes it's just, when you use the words like betrayal and diminish, in a sense, in writing, for everybody out there, and I did a master's in English, as a lot of you already know, it's better to understate than to overstate. And sometimes it'll just make the point even stronger without even saying as much. And so that would be and I kind of sensed that's what was going on, because we've talked in spaces, Twitter spaces, and Runetoon's super friendly. So I just assumed the best, and that was the case. Another example of why to assume the best. And thank you, Lewis. Great show. Thank you. And today I'm going to make it a lot shorter, guys. I got a ton to do today, but I am showing up for duty here. A very interesting tweet from Dmitry Cherniak regarding the royalties business. And we haven't looked at his work, probably because he's so prominent. It's just like the Fidenzas. He's the other guy. I can't remember what the series was called. We can look at it at a certain point, but a major player in this kind of generative art space. Royalties allow artists to be an artist and not a CEO. This means artists get to work on projects they think are important and leave money on the table up front for the sake of art. Artists don't need to compete with their own secondary market and can focus on making versus selling. Yeah, as I've been saying, it's just like a huge disappointment and speaks to the worst part of this space, in my humble opinion, that this is even a debate, that we should, this was the calling card of the whole NFT scene, was the fact that it gave royalties to artists and it was locked in. And frankly, even if it's not locked in by smart contract or whatever the case is, even if it can be gotten around, why don't we pay the royalties anyway, like we do Britney Spears or anybody else? So I don't understand. And maybe there's a terms and conditions thing, which is super annoying to have to put out. Nobody reads that stuff, but at a certain point, you just go, if you want to buy my work, if you resell it, it's a 10% or 15% or whatever. You can put 100%, it's your work, and that's the deal. And it's your work. So you sell it, these are the terms. So I think this will all get ironed out, but to me, it's just kind of sad. That's, again, I don't want to provoke any more, that's just my personal opinion. Okay, continuing on. Heads up, everybody. Again, mostly artists watch this show. NFT Paris 2023. Check this out. I retweeted this because I want to participate. Did I like it? Good. Artists open call for NFT Paris 2023. Do you want your artwork to be displayed at NFT Paris? 10 weeks, 10 curators, 100 artists to participate. I generally hate tweets like this. Post, like these kind of... But hopefully I didn't just disqualify myself there. I generally don't like it, but hey, I'd love to be in NFT Paris 2023, so what the hey? And I almost forgot to follow. Okay, good, I'm following everybody. I have checked off everything. So anyways, could be an opportunity. Okay, so heads up. Just a quick update. Aren't you curious what this sold for? I am too. It sold for only 3.3 Sol, $100 US, 103. Adelia is sold for 1,000 Tezos, and this is a really nice one. It's animated, just because it's basically on Sol. I think this would have went for... Now, we always talk about how Tezos is cheap versus Ethereum. But look at how cheap Sol is compared to Tezos when you have an artist like Adelia. Probably just because there's not there's a few more barriers to entry. If you're not on Solana, you have to set up a wallet, etc. So there wasn't even really a bidding war on this. I just started seeing it going up during the show yesterday. So I decided, okay, this is going to run away. But really what happened is Jay Byrne, who I kind of recognize, I think, from Tezos, put in a bid at 108 and then it sold at 147. So unless Jay Byrne was at his computer, I could have waltzed in here and for $100 own a one-of-one Adelia on Solana. And I'm kind of getting more and more excited about Solana. You know why? And I know it's all VC owned and all that sort of stuff, but fine. I'm sure Ethereum kind of has its own situation like that too. But what I like about it is the functionality is extremely quick. Like it competes with Phantom. And I like Phantom a lot because, in terms of actually trading crypto, I like Phantom because it's costs nothing, it's cheap, and it's incredible technology. They haven't really built out the NFT space. They have something called Paint Swap Finance. I actually own some of that, just a tiny bit of crypto, so full disclosure. Anyways, I'm trying to keep these episodes short here, but all to say, Solana, it's kind of got a nice feel, and this form function marketplace has a very nice feel, this one-of-one. I kind of want to get on it. And if I can't get on that, then I'll get on exchange.art until I do get on this. It's kind of my, attitude towards these things. Spagos Maskinen brought up a very important point. A really cool tweet. A reminder, starting in NFT Twitter from scratch can be extremely hard. I think everybody has been there. Even before I started this show, I was on NFT Twitter forever and barely I did have some success. Like a few tweets of artwork went well. But I have also had a million tweets of artwork and comments that went nowhere. In a sense, it's kind of like you got to find your medium. And it was once I found my medium, which is more in speech here on video, then I started doing better and people are just, they got to know who I was and were more happy to tweet along rather than this weird guy with his weird comments and his strange art. So, and we've all been there. I was sometimes you're there for years, right? Putting out hours and hours of hard work every day with zero response for weeks. Of course, patience and persistence is key, but how do you keep going without feeling like a beggar yelling into the void? So I responded to this and I basically said, enjoy people ignoring you. And I know that's very counterintuitive and kind of easy for people who have gotten a little bit of where there is some engagement, but I really do believe that when nobody's paying attention to you, you can kind of do whatever you want in a weird way. And you can still do that when people are paying attention. And in a lot of ways, I still do that. But, if you have 100,000 people watching, your whole business is built on, your Twitter tweets as an artist, you might not feel like you can just put out anything and see what sticks, throw whatever against the wall and see what sticks. So anyways, and this was the tweet, actually. that he's referring to, which I also want. Stable Empire. So give Stable Empire a follow. Taking a break or saying goodbye. I'm not built for Twitter, it seems. This is too much and it's affecting my mental health. Talking into a void of no one. Maybe I'll be back when I feel better. And again, this comes back to earlier episodes and just human issues on codependence. And I know it's hard. We all, as I say, suffer the slings and arrows of other people's judgments. It's not like anybody is immune. But as much as possible, you do want to be as immune as you can be from other people's judgments. And so, yeah, so sometimes it's really hard, but you just got to kind of remember that, you got to have your self-respect ultimately and believe in yourself. And self-respect, back to our earlier conversation on NFT royalties, comes from values. That is what makes a strong individual, at least according to the coaches. The great coaches. Practical psychology, practical philosophy is actually what I call that. If you're looking for that stuff, I recommend Brian Tracy, one of the great original coaches from about the start in the late 60s, early 70s. He's still alive and he still actually puts out videos because of his great attitude. And ultimately, quick aside, since we were talking philosophy yesterday, I actually see the coaching culture as an extension of American pragmatism. And, if I was in a philosophy department, I'd probably be writing that book. And I'd have to do a ton of reading because barely, I'd just be scratching the surface. But I really see it in the tradition of William James and Dewey. And again, this kind of American pragmatism, which isn't as common as it used to be. I think they kind of need to return to that a little bit. But so it goes. Let's not go there. Taking a break. Okay, so Stable Empire gives some support. Continuing on, so now onto some work here. So this is by Bolin 132, and just kind of a jarring contrast here. What was the title again? It's like Going to Mars, Christian Passions and the Flight to Mars. So this is such a jarring contrast that I kind of had to start our, painting our roll here, so to speak, our roll of images. It's just such a jarring contrast that I just had to look at it. And I'm not, in a weird way, and I like Bolin's work and I've collected some of it, I'm not sure how much it works in a weird way. Maybe I'd put the rocket down here smaller. And so anyway, I don't want to be critical on this show, and I love a lot of Bolin's work that they do here. Really an interesting artist, if you ask me, and it's digital collage prescribed in oil is the description, which I never know what it means. But of course, Raphael's deposition here, which you have to see, it is at, we will look it up. It's at Palazzo, I always forget the name. Yeah, it's in Rome, and it is a stunning work to see. Maybe we can look that up very quickly, because you have to see it. Raphael, deposition, Rome. Hopefully we don't kill the mic here. Galleria Borghese. And they are, I believe the Borgheses were descendants of the Medicis. Like they're related to the Medicis. And yeah, so here you go. Raphael's deposition. Photos do not do this work justice. I talked about this in a very early episode. The greens, it's such a luminescent painting. As I call, like with Raphael, you're looking at real world magic. Okay, it's stunning. Part of the reason I think oil painting works and is so important historically, why we keep returning to it, is how bright the colors are. The luminescence of oils are some of the most saturated colors you will see wherever you look in your visual field that you will ever experience. I would argue, maybe before the screen. Maybe Apple or your iPhone or Samsung, whatever, Android, maybe that actually starts to compete here. But nevertheless, that is a must-see in your lifetime. Continuing on, just a new artist that kind of crossed the desk here. The Virus of Life, aka 2020, seems to be a reference to COVID here. Just a newer, super rare artist. I think it was Ulana Duval retweeted this, and I just thought it was kind of nice. Kind of interesting textures and everything. Kind of has a India vibe of yogis or something. The Virus of Life, aka 2020, by Evolver on Super Rare. And they have a couple of works here. Evolver Studios is artist and illustrator Anthony Ventura. So anyway, just kind of an interesting artist. Look at this. This was also something I found on Twitter. I don't remember who tweeted it out or whatever. Someone called Scott. And it's on Versum. It's sold out. I went to buy it. And it was only like 3 or 4 Tezos. What did it sell for? 3.3. So for $5, you could have gotten this beautiful illustration here. Seems to be almost a take on some of the Russian, or you'd see like East German, you know, like that kind of Soviet propaganda art. You know, like it kind of reminiscent of those posters a little bit. Interesting, right? So here's some of their other work. They have one of ones available for 30 Tezos. So here's one that's available for 5, edition of 4. So just kind of a, you know, back to undiscovered artists here. Some people have been buying this up, and I'm tempted to, and it looks like there's even more. So to me, this person's a little bit undiscovered. That being said, this final work here, where it almost has like one of those John windows, to me, this looks like a breakthrough. So, and sometimes it's just like weird framing devices like that that'll just turn everything upside down. It's funny, isn't it? So the mystery, the discovery of art and how it works continues here. Continuing on, one of the final pieces from Daniel W.'s Weird and Terrifying series, I quite like this. It's just the rendition here, which I just found it like it's a work that kind of hits you just by virtue of the content. It's like a nightmare. It's like getting out of bed and this thing coming out from under your bed. There is a theory, like I used to have like once in a while, like put it this way, and I think we all have had, you know, when you're 6 years old, 5 years old, and kind of have this nightmare or like this fear of snakes being under your bed. It sounds like this is like an atavistic, which is another word for ancient fear of actually having to worry about snakes being under you when we're in the jungle or in, you know, the plains, savanna of Africa, you know, hiding, probably sleeping in the trees to avoid snakes. So this kind of is reminiscent of that. So this is called La Mano Peluda, the hairy hand from Mexico. Let's just read quickly. The legend of La Mano Peluda can be heard in various countries across Latin America, predominantly in Mexico and Colombia. It is said that the hand belonged to a wealthy man named Senor Villa, who was the owner of a pawn shop. He'd normally rip off his customers and treat them badly, and it was common to hear the people say, let God dry out his hand when walking in front of his pawn shop. And after he died, God did indeed dry out his hand. It was said that a black hairy hand would come out of Villa's grave looking for victims who'd be choked to death. After killing, it would return to the grave. To this day, many say that the hand pulled them out of the bed while sleeping. So again, I go to my everything is anthropology argument. To me, this whole myth, I would start to argue as putting on an anthropological hat. This is probably atavistic from when we were coming out of the plains of Africa, you know, half monkey, you know. Continuing on. Mimo Cat. I love Mimo Cat. Left Behind. You can leave to choose people, love, even life for something you want, but never leave yourself alone. Again, I've said it twice. Disney, what are you waiting for? If I'm like, and like you want to get into NFTs, why don't you just make a deal for an animation with Mimo Cat? Give her a team of animators, let her write the story, just put a pilot for us together, here's $100,000. Go. Why not? Look at what you have to gain and look at what you have to lose. What's $100,000 for Disney, and look at what you have to gain here. This is an animation series waiting to happen. I love the positivity. She can write. She hits all the right notes. Well done, Mimo Cat. I picked one up. A little German here. Ich vermisse diese Erinnerung, which I'm at level B German, which is okay. I believe that says, I miss the memory. Ship. Let's see if I got that right. Maybe my Google Translate here. I miss this memory. Okay. Now let me find where we were here. Okay. So just a cool work by Dexter. Love it. So again, just really, really cool works. Sounds like he was on a ship. So beautiful. Yeah, interesting centering of the composition. I think there would be a temptation to put it like, golden ratio style, but interesting composition. And I just love Dexter's work. There's something about it. A really nice digital oil painting by Tezos Rodinx, who continues, he's probably the person who showed up most on this show, which I find hilarious in a certain sort of way, because he's very much, I would say, a bit of a prankster in his work. But this is just a beautiful work from the Dime Store Pepe series. Let's just maximize this. So it's interesting, this texture, right, of oil painting, this texture in digital form. So, like, in a sense, what's going on there? We have digital tools that are copying physical tools, right? So the texture here, so you almost see like the light, right, of the individual brush, of each individual brush hair on the brush is being created here in order to simulate or to create a sense of a paintbrush, oil painting. And it's quite convincing, actually. So very interesting. I mean, with Procreate, another really interesting thing is sometimes I just wish I had, like, if I had pencil tools or like the technical pencil, which I love to use, if I had that as a real pencil, I would be drawing constantly physical work because it's so beautiful. It all looks beautiful. And there's so many tools like that. Shout out to Uxine, who shared some of his brushes with a few of us. So very nice. You got to love that. Ilya Shipkin, Unspiritual 8, a digital painting with minimum AI processing. So here we go. Continuing her combination of AI with digital painting, which I always find interesting. Ilya Shipkin, I should say. I just found this one kind of interesting. Pamela Caironi, Spider-Man. Kind of looks like he's wearing diapers or something. I don't know what's going on here. Buy for 5 in edition of 2. Have any sold? It looks like all sorts of stuff is going on here. Yeah, one is sold for 4. Anyways, interesting work, if you ask me. Just kind of a speedy sketch it looks like, but there's something about it. It reminds me of, I think her name is Catherine Bernhardt. I think that's who it is. Contemporary artist. Yeah, is this the person? Kind of like her. She's famous for doing these Pink Panthers. She's a pretty big deal in the contemporary art world if you've never heard of her. Catherine Bernhardt. Let's just see. Yeah. I mean, kind of put it this way, doing something like Spider-Man kind of really quick and really rough, to me is reminiscent of, say, doing Pink Panther, which one of her favorite subjects, kind of really quick and really rough kind of style. So it kind of has that sort of feel. It's kind of interesting, her style, isn't it? Like, I mean, it's kind of like at first it's kind of offensive, and then you learn to just kind of really like it, and so very interesting. Max Strecker Mirror, edition of 1, buy for 60. So Max Strecker, of course, does a lot of almost semi-MC Escher inspired work and does a lot of kind of what I'd say is almost op art, abstract, playing with kind of formal abstraction, I suppose we could call it. So Mirror by Max Strecker. I thought this was an excellent piece by Dan Control, who is also becoming almost a daily staple here, very prolific. What I love about this one is he's working with the gradients, but he has switched the colors up. In a sense, it's become more minimal. I remember a comment by, Larry Gagosian, he was talking about Jean-Michel Basquiat, and he was saying, even at 27, he started to get really kind of minimal in his final works, and that's often what you'll see at the end of artists' careers, is they start to get really kind of just to the bare bones of what their art is about. And anyways, when I see this kind of reduction by Dan Control of his previous gradient work, that's what it kind of echoes for me. It's like this getting to the bare bones of the work to a certain degree. So anyways, very interesting piece. I picked that one up too. Wine Glass. Very nice. Kika Nikolela has a weird piece and an interesting abstraction here. Between Stations Cloud Series is a series of photographs taken not with a photo camera, but from cloud points derived from 3D scanned spaces. So she's using some sort of 3D scanner, I guess, that you'd kind of scan 3D spaces with, and is playing with that as a source for the work. So interesting. Buy for 2 Tezos. She also has a AI artwork that she does, which we're also going to look at. She's the one who I thought kind of was reminiscent of Leonora Carrington. And by the way, I went to a spectacular show on Saturday at Museum Barberini in Potsdam, which is a half-hour train ride from Berlin. I'll try and remember to show the pictures. I took a bunch of them. A spectacular surrealist show. Several masterpieces by Ernst and Yves Tanguy, some of the best works by those artists. It was a surprisingly good show. It was a first-rate show, you might say, because, Anyways, Stipend Pixel. A new kind of mysterious series here. I'm a big fan of Stipend Pixel's work, and he's very experimental, and this is a very experimental series. Like, look at how, the tree here is awesome, right? And so in the colors, rotating sea between antique molding and 90s signage. So just kind of a wild pixel work. And there's another one here too, also available. These are small editions of 5, available for 4. So get in while you can. I haven't picked one up yet. I might not. But again, it's a head-turning work. What I love about it is there's a lot of thought going in here, and it kind of makes me wonder, I like the experimentation. And frankly, in a sense, the courage to kind of put out just wild experimentation like this. This is good, right? In my universe, this gives this whole scene credibility. This isn't just, a flower, much as I love. I have flowers, actually, as pixelated works, but you know what I'm saying. Actually, it's funny. The yellow flowers of, I guess there are some flowers here, but that's not the point. So here is Stipend Pixel. So a lot of experimentation. I've bought actually a few of these. So anyways, I'm a big fan of his work. Capin kind of has something that could show in the same room here, the gravitational door of time and space. I don't think we've shown this. This came out yesterday. So another experimental work by Capin. So just very interesting. This kind of like Dexter has this static and dynamic pixels contrast, right? But does it almost in a layering sort of way, whereas with Dexter, it's kind of spatially separate. Okay, so continuing on, nice work, 444 from Capin, edition of 12. Side Hustle put out 6 abstract compositions. We're going to look at all of them very quickly. Abstract compositions exploring color cycling, bitmaps, tiling, and brushing effects made on vintage software. So back to our retro software tools. So here is number 1. And here is number 2. So just interesting experimentation. Here is number 3. And of course, we know Side Hustle from the cubed houses, I believe they're called. Here is number 4. This looks more like almost like a circuit board or something. It looks like the pixels are being dragged a bit. So you got to love this experimentation here. This is number 5, edition of 1. Interesting. Number 5. And these are these all editions of 1? And this is number 6. So I love series, right? Especially when you're just exploring an idea. These are all editions of 1. So how collectible is that? It's very collectible what he did here. So take note, I say. The World is Over. This is by Glitchtown Arcade. So Vito, who sometimes watches this program, and here he has more experimentation with Nintendo Glitch ROM, which I am all over that idea. Looks like the world is over. So a commentary, it seems, on our current world. It's like a play on Game Over, but the world is over. Do we have Over and Out? Glitchtown Arcade. So excellent. Buy for 3, edition of 66. Only 9 left. Or only 9 for sale, 1 sold to Bosby. So still available. Add to your Nintendo Glitch ROM collection. Shout out to Vito. Now this is interesting too. Strange Thing put this out. Okay, and he had a very interesting tweet here. Not all AI has to be in HD, 4K, 6K, 8K to be impressive. I think that's one of his tricks, by the way, to get these super high-res looking images. Taking it back to retro, not for mint. So interesting, right? This AI pixel art thing is also very interesting. And what I also find interesting about it is it's this idea that you could use this as a source, and then if you wanted to do like your kind of perfect pixel work, you could just put this as a layer underneath and then actually make the pixel work. So again, AI is just like the potential. It's almost overwhelming, isn't it? Like there's too many possibilities almost. It is a struggle just to focus on one thing, isn't it? And here's another work by Strange Thing, also not for mint, just experimental. So again, look at like, he's really good at getting these like super high-res looking images. I have a theory on what he's doing, and I think he might be using like, fashion, and I mean, he says it directly, AI fashion meets Renaissance art, and I think he's taking probably images from websites. I'm just guessing, speculating. Images from websites, fashion websites like Prada or Gucci or whatever the case may be, and then using that and then putting it, say, into a Renaissance, and then you get your, maybe you have the right prompt that helps describe to help render in a kind of oil painting way or, in a high-res way, the clothing and that sort of thing. That's my theory on what he's doing there. Continuing on, just a comment on AI. The more AI art is criticized, the more I think the criticism sounds exactly like those who criticized Impressionism when it first arrived, and I have to agree with that. And, I have some skepticism here and there, but as I said in a previous episode, if you're an artist, like you got to love it if you're an AI artist and people are saying this isn't art. That's exactly what you want to hear, right? And because then it's like, oh, this must, like, then the red flag goes off in the back of your head waving, saying, this is important. This is very important. And that's the sense I get here as well. So I agree with Capstone's tweet here, who looks like he or she owns a Strange Thing. So Capstone says, too easy, too many colors, not refined. As Louis Leroy wrote, impression, wallpaper in the embryonic state is more finished. Right, so someone criticizing the non-finito nature of Impressionism, which is its poetry. I also saw a brilliant Impressionist show at Museum Barberini in Potsdam, simultaneously with that Surrealist show. Some like two top-notch shows. That was a spectacular afternoon of art there on Saturday. One of the benefits of living in Berlin here. And finally, Sunday, well, we got a few more, actually. Clown Vamp, Sunday AI. It's the day of rest, but also the day of AI. So here's this weekly thread. So here are some of the works of AI, and we'll look at the artists in a second, but I want to just see them big, and then we'll see who did them. So again, Clown Vamp is all in on AI, so I like to pay attention to what he's saying. So just some interesting works here. Saint Laurent Jr. is the one who did this. Wow. Right? So again, kind of has this painterly look to it, that's for sure. And this is OX333 AI. And you can go to Clown Vamp's page to read everything. These shows are going too long. Interesting. So AI distortions on steroids here. But creates an interesting half representational, half abstract kind of work. And here's Layla Rue. And again, for new watchers, I like to go through as much AI art as possible just to make us as informed as possible and not get our ideas about AI from a book, but from actually AI art. Then I think we can actually call ourselves informed. And so this is why I go through a lot of AI art here. Din Burns, interesting, kind of has it's an Edward Gorey sort of feel to it. And this is, that's Din Burns, and this is Evelyn O at Superchief. And this has a painterly, so a lot of these have quite a painterly feel to them. Look at that. Nice bulwark. And also an interesting work. Playing with AI, you notice the eyes get screwed up in the faces. and you see different solutions. I quite liked, again, Strange Thing had a great solution, which is putting the VR goggles on top of the people, which creates its kind of own kind of cool look and cool concept. And then you avoid the whole distortion of the eyes, right? So Kika Nicolela, as we wrap up here, has a new AI work. And again, I think Leonora Carrington, I actually took some photos of her work that I saw on Saturday here. So a life of art over here in Berlin. So just an interesting piece, isn't it? Kind of surreal, mystical, suspended moment, an octopus dream. Again, very echoes Leonora Carrington. 1 of 1 for 50. So if you're an AI collector, AI art collector, I buy here and there. But yeah, there's a deal for you. And Red Rum, good night, friends, something new coming. So you might have noticed Twitter, like what used to happen when I click on the image is I'd get the tweet beside, which is actually really useful. Now, under Elon Musk, I think they are just putting a full kind of slideshow look to the image, which is interesting. So I thought this was an interesting angle, and I'm not sure what's going on here. So a little tease from Red Rum, and of course, Unknown Collector. We couldn't finish without just kind of seeing what he's up to. Our collector artist, and he put out a work, AI art, we print and print, mint and mint. It doesn't stop, it never will. The revolution is coming. Everyone can be a copy of an artist now. We finally have a world full of creatives. So I think there may be a little bit of tongue-in-cheek here. But you know what? It's not a bad piece, is it? Like, I don't mind it. And probably self-referential. That's probably another piece by Unknown Collector. And I think I brought up his page. Yeah, so anyways, just kind of a GM. Just kind of fun to watch. I thought that was a great piece here. This was, kind of this toxic positivity is kind of a bit of a shocking piece. But you gotta like it. Look, it's already 27 Tezos, edition of 117. He's got a lot of followers, Unknown Collector. So it's interesting how these are editions of 10,000. He could really make bank on this, couldn't he? Interestingly. And finally, Diego Beiro is showing his work. A lot of you will recognize many of these works from this show, and he is showing in the physical world, and I am all for it. We are multi-chain and multimedia over here. We are not in one tiny little category. It shows depth, and there he is exhibiting in an art fair in Mexico City. So congratulations, Diego. Shout out to you and your super interesting art. And with that, thank you once again for joining me, my friends. Until next time, take care.